I think in general, when you look at what is a big thing to one individual, it's going to look different to the next, and
Right.
that's one of the things you have to consider, even when you get advice from someone else, because one individual might tell you, "Oh, well, that's little. Don't worry about it." But in your mind, that's a major thing. And so when you talk about smoking, um, for me, that's a major thing as well. But if a smoker ends up talking to another smoker, like who? Well, we'll just smoke together. But that doesn't mean that it's something that you're able to look past. And then, I mean, when you think about that act, it does lead to health risks down the line in the future. You might be healthy now, but what those lungs gonna look like 2 years from now?
Mm,
So it's something to be considered
Yeah.
in in the investment that you make into the individual. Will you get a positive return when you consider whatever that small or big thing is?
okay. Okay. So I got to play devil's advocate here. I hear what you're saying, Sean. But say that person says, well, if you care about that person and they smoke and everything, and you say, I really care about you and I don't want you to be unhealthy. It could pose risk down the line. And then they hit you back and they say, well, you can stand to lose a couple pounds because that's unhealthy. The thing is this, I personally, I think that people can grow together. And so I would be willing to do my part, right? But I don't know about what that other person is going to do. Because I would agree with that. I'd be like, yeah, I could stand to be more conscious of that, you know? So that's the
Then
thing. Whereas, the person and then sometimes there's a person that may be a smoker and they don't mind being with a non-smoker. So how do you approach that conversation? You say, well, for me, I don't think this is going to work, because I came off as being judgmental. I'm gonna just be transparent. It's like that's not gonna work for me, and I came off as being judgmental.
You know, hi everybody.
Hi,
Hey
Sean.
Sean.
Hey Davita. Um, I'm gonna tell on myself a little bit, but everybody has their deal breakers,
Mhm.
and it's okay to have a deal breaker. There's some things that I just will not accept. Um, you can call them big, you can call them small, but it's what I call them that matters, not somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So if these are my deal breakers, these are my deal breakers, and it's okay. But the thing that I won't do is that I won't get if a per if I go on a date with somebody and they have those deal breakers real inherent, it's not my right to ask the person to change. That's between them and their God. But I do know what you see is what you get. So I have to be willing to accept the person the way they are. So I'm not accepting the deal breaker. So I'm not going to take the relationship any further so that I would have to later on make a decision. Oh, I'm in love. Do I
Right.
sacrifice? Like I don't get to that decision because I'm gonna end it in the beginning because of those deal breakers. I have no right to ask a person to change. Okay. Now, as far as
Hmm.
telling on myself a bit about the smoking, the women that I've dated in the past did not smoke and would not tolerate me smoking. They were not that kind of women. I was okay with it, but I never smoked around them. And
Hmm.
then I make sure I don't have any evidence of me smoking when I'm around them. And to give you an example, like I don't smoke in my house because I don't want the smell in the sheets and the clothes and all of that stuff. So I don't smoke in my house. So I'll make sure that I shower, put on clean clothes, put on some cologne so that there's no evidence of any cigarette smoke around me. And then once, we're done, whether we're the date or whatever, then I'll just go back to smoking again. My friend calls me, they call me a closet smoker.
Okay.
Because if I'm with you for a week, I'm not smoking for a week.
But that's the thing. So when you're looking at someone for whom to marry, it's like, how long can you keep that up? I want you to be comfortable in your own home.
Right. But see, in my case, I know it's not
So
good.
you're like,
Wait to Sean. In my case, I know it's not good for me and I know I have to stop.
okay,
That's why.
okay.
That's why. So I'm okay with it because I know I have to stop. That's just my own personal thing. And
Thank you.
that other
Okay.
person would give me the motivation to stop because I know they're not tolerating it. What's up, Shishan?
So I mean, I don't know how to ask this in a not direct way because I'm a direct person. They didn't taste
Huh?
it.
Oh, from the kisses. Right.
Yeah. They didn't taste it.
No.
Yeah, you can taste it.
You gargle.
No, I'm asking Sean. He was.
Oh, you shower, you gargle, there is no evidence. Trust me.
He good. He's really good.
There is
Because my senses, my
evidence.
spidey
Yeah.
senses, I can taste the tiniest faint of nicotine.
That's because they're smoking after they gargle. You're supposed to smoke,
Got a
then
science.
gargle, but you don't smoke. Period. Like for that whole day, when I wake up, I'd probably smoke a cigarette in the morning. But once I hit that shower, it's a wrap.
Wow, he's got a lot of self-discipline, I tell you that.
It's
Right. It seems like you could have quit a long time ago, Sean.
Is that your woman?
That's
Is the
very
secret your
disciplined.
woman?
Yeah. I mean,
Sean,
that's just me because I know it's not, my lifestyle really isn't conducive to smoking. I'm too active.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't kind of work with my lifestyle. So it's one of those things, that's my personal goal. It just has to go. So I got a whole bunch of
and he made that determination on his own. And that's the great thing about it.
right.
Yeah. Well, I think that anything that you have that bothers you, I think sometimes we feel like, oh, I can overlook it but as the relationship continues on, if you already had an issue with it before you even met that person, it's going to become magnified because you're not always going to be in a honeymoon phase. And so at times where it has nothing to do with anything, that thing is going to be the straw.
yeah.
Right. And then how we talk about, Jay always says, hey, grown folks going to do what they want to do anyway. So say there's a certain instance where, you begin to be intimate with that person smokes every morning when they wake up, something like that. Are you going to be able to manage or work around that? Because it's a certain aspect of that person that you would not be in acceptance of, so I don't know how to maneuver around that.
So the last thing that I'll say, it should have been the first thing, but one of the key elements in Sheila's presentation is that in order to have a relationship with individuals, you first have to cultivate your relationship with Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And you try the spirit by the spirit. If you're dealing with an individual that tells you, hey, this is where I'm at, I'm going to change, cool. But know that I will be looking for you to change. And if you don't see any fruit that are becoming more ripened, then that should give you a sign that I don't think this individual is doing what they say they want to do. Because if you can ask everyone else but not ask God, then you're going to get a different answer of every individual you ask. It could be a yes or no question. You're going to get 15 maybes in that yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I think if somebody really is purpose to change something, whether it's smoking or anything else, they're going to already be taking steps to do that. It's
Right.
not going to be
They're already going to be in the process. Yeah.
Right. It's not going to be prompted by you. And because the thing about it is that if it's prompted by you in a stressful situation, they're going to revert back to whatever was comfortable or familiar, whatever it is, because those are things that are comforts for us, those vices, things that we do. And sometimes it's just because our focus is on something else, that we don't put our energy towards that. I mean, I had a friend who we used to have to spend all day in a little truck together, and she would complain about how her husband always left his shoes at the front door. And I'm like, I mean, you know, that's irritating, but you talking like it's, you know, World War III up in your house because he keep leaving these shoes at the door. And to me, that's what I thought about when, Sheila, when you were talking about the small things, because I'm like, okay, all of these other things are great, but this one thing that he does, because nobody's going to do everything that you know, just like, oh, nobody's perfect. Right. So you have to figure out what your tolerance is. What your, you know, I think what Sean said, deal breakers, what are your deal breakers? And as Davida said, they may be small to other people, but to you, you have to be honest with yourself, and no judgment from anybody else. You got to live with it, not them. So if it's something that, you know, other people are like, oh, that's nothing, but you know that you're going to be mad all day because the cap was left off the toothpaste because you're anal like that, then, you know, you just need to be honest with yourself, because otherwise that person's gonna have to deal with that attitude from you, and they're not doing it to bother you or upset you, but it is. Yeah. And so then you got to, you know, deal with that. So you have to, you know, really be honest about yourself and where you're at and say, okay, I know that I have to have these things, or I know that I can't be with somebody who feels like every time there's a dirty cup in the sink that, you know, everything has to stop. So, you know, that's how you have to kind of be. But but that's what I think about with the small things, is just, you know, are they small to you where you're saying, okay, this makes them not perfect, versus, oh, I just can't stand it, I can't deal with that, or, oh, I like him so much, it's okay, when you know before you met that person that you was like, oh, heck no.
I mean, those small, I'm glad you broke it down that way, because those small things have, like, you know, in a lot of ways, surprisingly, have ended so many marriages or relationships, period, over those little things. And what makes me think about that a lot, it's this song that Natalie Cole made years ago called I'm Catching Hell. And I don't know if you all heard that song or not, but that she basically, you know, tells it, you know, the way it is, as far as, you know, arguing about the little insignificant things that really don't matter. And now I'm here by myself because I got caught up in the wrong thing and not appreciating the little things that, you know, I might have overlooked, just focusing on this minor stuff that doesn't really matter. So,
you know what, one of the thing, y'all keep using the term small things. If it's a small thing, it's a small thing.
Yeah, but what I mean by small things, some people may make it major. Like,
right, we determine if it's small or not.
Right, exactly. But it's just like, are you going to really let something like somebody, you know, I'm just going to use the example that was used earlier, is them leaving their shoes out. And you tell this person, I've told them time and time again about these shoes, you know what, forget it, I'm done with it. He just won't put his shoes up, I'm out of here. Or, you know, vice versa. You know, that could be you know, something like, you're going to really let something like that in something that you know, invested in, put time in to, you know, as far as, you're going to really let that like mess up what you had going, something good you had going, the relationship. That's the more important thing than you know, griping about these shoes or something that's been, you know, not being done to your expectation.
At its core, it's about losing perspective.
Right.
And we all do that. We all get so fixated on something that we forget that it's really not that important. Right. And it takes a person on the outside to kind of bring us back to ourselves and, like, you know, is that real? Or something happening, you know, something happens in our life, or a person kind of points out to us and we're like, yeah, I guess I was going a little, you know, off the deep end about that. Or, you know what, this is really not that important. You know, I have a different perspective now. And so that and unfortunately, sometimes we, in those situations, go to people we know are going to co-sign on our BS.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true.
They're going to
Yes.
agree with us and say, yeah, or they sometimes, and I know for the guys, because I hear this from men all the time, sometimes our girlfriends will make mountains out of molehills.
Mhm.
Like, you gonna let him talk to you like that? Well, you gonna let him go? And you're not thinking it's anything, and then it's just that and you start thinking, well, maybe it is a problem, maybe it is a big deal.
Mhm.
So that's, why we have to, as Sheila was saying, seek God first, but also, consider who you're surrounded. Make sure that you got honest people as your friends, your real friends that are gonna tell you the truth
Yeah.
and say,
Whew.
what, you need to stop, because that is not that serious, or you're just making something out of nothing, you looking for a fight, whatever it is, because sometimes it has nothing to do with that. Sometimes it has something to do with something totally different. And then some things you kind of have to soul search and say, you know what, why is this such a big deal to me?
Right.
Why is this such a major thing? Is it really about them at all? Or is it about me having control? Is it, what is it really about? And that, back to Sheila's slide, it goes back to understanding yourself and what
Mhm.
your motivations are and what your challenges are that you need to work through.
Mhm.
So no, it's only small, Sean, because it is fall, but we can magnify things. That's one of our good gifts. We can magnify things, and other people are like, what? Are they
Well,
serious? That's what it, so.
You're right with keeping it in perspective. I know if a bunch of small things that a person is doing is getting on my nerves, I know that there's a bigger issue going on inside of me.
right.
And I have to
That's
check I would literally check myself if I'm getting annoyed. Like, y'all know me, make the bed when you get up in the morning. Don't leave dishes overnight in the sink. But if that stuff bothers me, I know there's something bigger going on, because I know for a fact that smaller, that ain't no big deal.
Right.
Mhm.
or also, if all those little things that that person is doing is starting to annoy you, you probably don't need to be with that person, you know? But unfortunately, that's why we have to be diligent and like really know ourselves first, because and know what we will and will not want in our lives, and what that other person is offering or bringing to the table, because before we get physically intimate, which can misconstrue some things, because people stay for the sex or they stay for the comfort, when they really don't. They're like, I'm not gelling with you on anything. You don't make the bed, you don't keep a clean house, you don't brush your teeth, so, but the thing is, the point I'm trying to make, all those things, you have to look at it holistically and be like, is this the person for me? And be courageous enough to have that talk with them and just be like, you know what? There's nothing wrong with you. It's nothing wrong with me. But I don't think that this is going to be my forever love, you know. And that's what ultimately what I'm looking for. And I think that all of us are here are looking for. It's a hard conversation to have.
Yeah. It is, but I think I like what Sean said. It's just like we have to check ourselves. And one of those things that I listed was like just check yourself on like how easily offended you are about things. I know that we kind of live in a world of offense, and it's just we have to check those certain things. Like going back to what Rashawn was saying. Is it really this big of a deal, or is it something I can just let go, or I need to look within, and why does this bother me so bad? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think it's a growing thing, like when it comes to that, Um, but anyway, anybody else got questions?
Somebody had put in the chat that the husband's supposed to love their wife the way Christ loved the church. The biggest thing that I always get from that is that Jesus was willing to die
Right.
For us. I mean, literally. And the Bible talks about dying to ourselves.
Yeah.
And you talked about, well, I'm pretty sure you talked about it because I seen it in the PowerPoint. But the thing is that if I love somebody and they don't like me leaving my shoes at the door, whatever, like I'll just do it. You know what I mean? It's not it's not that it's not major. It's just that I want a peaceful home. So in order for me to have a peaceful home, she need to be at peace. So if I move my shoes, you will be at peace so I can have a peaceful home so I can get some peace. Then that's kind of like nothing.
There you go.
Like those little things is really like not a big deal because I've been, I've lived alone for a while. So I know if I start to live with somebody, there's going to be some changes that I have to make because I'm used to being by myself. And now it's not about me anymore. Right. So and then as a man, we have we grow up being taught that it's her house. So we're okay with what she wants to do with her house. You want to put this over here? You want to put this over here? You want me to move this here? You want me not to leave my shoes? Fine. Because I don't want to deal with the house. Let me just go to work and come home, And I think that's probably why we're raised like that, because we don't want to decorate a home. Like, come on.
Yeah, but the thing is, Sean, that under stress, you're not going to remember the thoughtfulness of doing things because that other person wants you to. That becomes more difficult because you start to get into your head with what you're dealing with. And I mean, since I started with this example, they had a toddler and a elementary age kid. He was working 2 jobs. I mean, it was a lot going on, and they were, we were all young, but they were a young couple. And so for him, he's tired. And of course the kids want to play or whatever. And so his priorities were just different because like you said, when you're raised a certain way, so some people are raised to take their shoes off at the door. Is that right? So you do certain things without even thinking about it. And then, of course, if somebody says they have a problem with it, you try to adjust. But under stress, you just revert back to what's familiar. And so to me, and what I advised her, and just for the sake of the conversation, make it easier for that person to accommodate you. So if you have a problem with it, and that's just something that always happens, put a shoe rack at the door on the side. Yeah. And he just put his shoes there that now they belong there and they're out of the way of the door.
Right.
It's not messy. So figure out something that is a compromise you can live with, because like you said, Sean, I mean, when you get with somebody, you both have to adjust. It's not just the men, both the man and woman have to adjust, and you have to meet a person where they are. You can't expect them to totally change to be the way you want them to be, because I'll give you another example. When me and my husband first had our first child, we had this big knockdown, drag out argument about how the bottles were supposed to be made. And we were both right, because the way that they did it in his family was not wrong, and the way I did it in my family was not wrong. It was just different. And we had to kind of step back, and because we were friends, we were able to kind of just step back and say, okay, this is, you know what, when you're making the bottles, you make them the way you make them. When I make them, I'm gonna make them the way I make them. And we just gonna pray over it that it's gonna be all right. Because, I was sterilizing stuff. I was doing all this, and he ain't got to do all of that. He's from the country of, in Georgia. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to, pray and make, and, believe that it's going to be okay. But we did, I mean, it got heated, and then it was just kind of like, dang, we're arguing about bottle preparation. This is like really crazy argument, and we really couldn't point to why anybody was wrong, but not everybody has that ability to kind of step back and do that and realize my way is not necessarily the right way, it's just my way. And that, as was being said earlier, it's about the other person, so you have to give them some grace and say, all right, how important is this thing over this person? How important is my way over that? And I mean, I'm not saying that because there's certain things that I feel like things should go a certain place. And when they don't, it stresses me out when things don't go where they belong. But because I know that, I have a tendency to just put them there versus, I would be great if other people did it, when they're moving things. But if they don't, I'll just do it because that's, it's stressing me out. It ain't bothering them. It's stressing me out. And it's like, I can communicate that, but I'm not going to sit there and be stressed out because I just like, if you ain't going to do it, I'm just going to go off on you and no, I'll just do it because it's important to me that it's done. So I mean, I hear what people are saying about, wanting to have things a certain way, but at the same time, really just understanding, what that's about. And if you are under stress, realizing that too, I'm maybe not my best right now because I'm stressed out. I need some grace.
There you go. I know that I so love this group, and I know that the Spirit is working here because that's exactly the word that I was saying. For how do we stay together? We all, if we profess Christ, we are supposed to have or develop certain virtues. That virtue that we're talking about for today is grace.
Yes.
That is it. I think that like covers over everything because we are imperfect people. And some days I might be a 10 and other days I might just be a 7. Okay. And everybody has that. And so I'm with Tejan when I say, you might have married the man of your dreams and everything. And when he is stressed out, he leaves those shoes at the door. It bothers you or whatever. Me, because I'm imperfect just like him and he was with me, when I go through my stuff too, I'm just going to move them. And marriage and relationships take work. It's not going to be a cookie cutter type thing where people do what they're supposed to do all the time. So in addition to moving those shoes, then I got to put in work and find out what exactly is stressing my man out, because that's my work. A lot of people, you talked about putting in the work. Mm-hmm. Relationships are hard. You cannot go into this thing easily or lightly, and you have to actually invest into that person. It might be the job stressing them out. It might be a new baby. Y'all might be having a new baby or something like that. It might be family stuff, that's going on in the background. And so as that significant other, a woman or man, you have to put in the work and know how to approach that person and get them to talk to you so you can help to alleviate some of that stress, and in the meantime, you still got to wash the dishes and pick up the shoes and all those things. I never understood, and I know that people are fallible. I never understood how people could have extramarital or affairs or cheating. Because I'm like, if you're actually putting everything you can into that relationship, you have no time to go be dealing with somebody else because you're addressing what you need to do at your house. When you go outside of that, it's because you have decided you don't want to deal with it and you're going to escape from it. Okay. And that's not going to fix the situation. But yeah, it's a lot of work that you got to put in. So, Grace.
Yes, because we are definitely all a broken people, and we, need somebody to, it would be great for, people to extend that, grace to understand, hey, you're not perfect, I'm not perfect, but we just trying the, best that we can, to do what it is that we do. So, yeah, that's good. I like that, Davita.
Thank you. Jay is asking for other topics. And Angela said something about blended families and step-parent relationships. That's a good one. I myself, I have that as a challenge because I do have 2 children, one of which is an adult son, both of which are very protective of me. So if y'all saw my son, he's like kind of tall. Guys are like, I ain't messing with her, you know. They leave me alone. I'd be like, go away, go somewhere. But it's something that has to be navigated carefully. And I think we touched on last week a little bit, Jay, about approaches, and when you are confronted or you meet someone and you have, say, maybe you have one date and you know that that person is not for you, how to be gentle and in your response to them. And do you maintain a friendship with them, or do you just go on, you know, your separate ways? So that was another thing we were going to talk about.
Okay. Well, I'm going to get to Natalie. She has a question. Go ahead, Natalie.
Hey everyone, I'm sorry I came late into the group or to this chat, so I'm not sure if you guys talked about it, but I caught a little bit about what you just said, and I was interested to know your thoughts about if you do put all that you have in a relationship and you know you are accommodating, but you notice that you are the only one that's really taking the initiative to always like be the first one to apologize, be the first one to try to talk about things and things of that nature. Like if you are the initiator and you know it gets tiring. So how do you communicate that with your partner, or how do you address that or fix that in a relationship?
I think you should definitely first communicate it to see what could be resolved through the communication. If not, maybe that just isn't the person for you. That's the only thing that you know I can speak on from that point. But definitely communication, effective communication is key on that for me. Anybody else want to chime in on that one?
I will. That's a really good question that you asked, Natalie, because I think it happens more often than not with women, because we tend to be givers by nature. And so we are the first ones. And guys, you could speak up if you think it's different, but I think that we are nurturers, givers. Just that's when we are working in our natural selves. So if you find that you're with a man who doesn't seem to reciprocate, that, right, the conversation has to be had. It's funny because as a child of God, even when we are right, we are still supposed to be humble, and we are peacemakers. That's what the Bible says. We are peacemakers. So even when we are right, we are still called to go to that person and say, listen, how can we fix this? And so for your significant other who's not operating in that, they don't apologize when they're wrong and stuff like that, are they really being obedient to what Christ called us to do? It shouldn't be by the sex, shouldn't be male or female thing, because we're all the same. So I feel like if you're with someone and they're not doing that, then you need to look more so not as them as an affront to you, but are they really following the will of God?
Gotcha. I appreciate that. Yeah, it does answer the question. I appreciate that.
And I know I was in a situation like that. I ended up getting out of the relationship because nothing I did. It got to a point that I was like, you know what? There is nothing that I can do to fix this. I done tried everything, even counseling, pastoral counseling. Nothing kind of fixed. So the entire relationship was draining me and draining me and draining me, physically and emotionally, to where it started to affect other areas of my life, my work and things like that. And no matter how much we had the discussion, like nothing ever changed.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt as if, like, I knew I had no more to give. I have no more sacrifice. I just have no more. So if this isn't enough, then I got to get out of here.
That's right. You're right.
And I felt like it wasn't enough and I did not have any more. So I had to get out of the relationship. And we still talk. This was a few years ago. We still talk. And I asked her some time ago, like, what do you think really went wrong with the relationship? And she said, because she kept nagging me and nagging me and nagging me and never being satisfied. Like, she told me that it drove me away.
Wow.
But the problem that I still have with it, okay, you knew this in the relationship, you knew it was going bad, and yet you still did nothing to change. Like, I can't change you. That's between you and God.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned that there are some people that want to stay miserable. They want to be like that because that's where they're comfortable. That's what they know.
You're
Like
right.
Tashonda said, we revert back to what we know. So I guess the thing is who's going to fill you up? Where are you going to get your fill if you're not getting better? If you're pouring out, where are you getting filled up at? Now you have to go outside the home to get filled up. I mean, that's just my own experience. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. So
Go ahead, you first, Tejon.
I don't want to be controversial, but that's just, whatever. But Davida was saying, how do extramarital affairs happen? And that's how it happens. I mean, if there's been, this kind of thought process that, oh, he or she never really loved this person because they went outside the marriage. But if you do all the things that you're supposed to do, and that person, by their choices, whether they're aware of it or not, they continually hurt a person, there gets to a point where you don't want to hurt anymore. And if somebody is offering you some relief from that hurt or giving you what you need, basically, even if it is temporary, it's difficult. I mean, we're human beings.
Right.
And, if you, I've been in, that shoulder to cry on for people and listen to all the things that they've done and gone through trying to, make this other person happy. And of course, that's the first bad decision, is trying to make somebody else happy, because you can't,
Right.
make somebody happy. They have to choose to be happy. But they are torn apart by that, because they're giving everything. They're being so vulnerable, and they're being rejected constantly and being told they're not good enough, not necessarily verbally, but in the way that they're treated. And then somebody comes along and says, you are good enough and you're awesome, especially if it's, well, they know the situation and know everything you're doing. Because a lot of it was, I'm trying to figure out what to do. Tell me what to do. Now, if I was a different type of woman, I'd be like, well, you can do all that for me. But, there are people out there like that, where they're like,
Yeah.
she don't appreciate it. I'll take it, so everyone has their breaking point where they're just like, you know what, this person is never going to, it's not going to change. There's nothing that I can do. And it's a painful place to be. And if somebody is saying, come on in out the rain, it's hard to stay in the rain.
Okay.
It's hard just to stay out there. And yes, you should do it the right way, but it's just like, to me, and this is just, the way that I've always seen it, it's when you're in a desperate situation at that point. You're in a desert, emotional desert. You're destitute of so many things that you need by the time you've done all these things to try to do your part, that you don't necessarily have the right mind, and you latch on before unwittingly sometimes. Now, if it's a continual thing, that's different. But everybody everybody, you know, stumbles and, you know, and makes mistakes. And that's, you know, that can happen to anybody. And I've learned not to say never. I didn't do
Never.
it, but you know, I can see how things happen because you know, I've done things but I've done things where I was like, I didn't ever think I would do that, but it's happened now. So you know, I just have to pick myself up.
That's right. So I don't know if you were saying, well, I do know how it happens. I do know how it happens, but I think we should make a differentiation between dating someone and not being married to them and being married to them, because the rules by God's word are a little bit different.
Mhm.
Because the thing is, when you're just dating that person and you are giving all that you can to the relationship and they're not reciprocating or they're not appreciative of it, that's probably not the person for you. However, once you already entered into a state of marriage before God, you are supposed to stay, and God is going to somehow work it out and fulfill those needs. You don't go anywhere, you know, because your allegiance is to God and not more than it is to that person. So
That's true.
that's the difference right there. You
That's
know,
true,
that's
but
why I
Davita
have
does.
I've been in close relationship with a man who I thought I was going to marry. And of course you have all this time invested and stuff like that. And you realize that they really don't appreciate you, you know. Sometimes our egos, and sometimes just looking at, oh, we done put in 4 years, you know, we done put in all this time. I'm not going anywhere. You have put yourself in a position to be abused because God did not, you're not married to that person. So you don't have to stay. And I have learned I don't feel bad about it because I'm holding that person up from their destiny, and they holding me up from mine. I'm the queen of goodbye. You know, I am. And
Some
so
people, but Davita, some people are not good quitters.
yeah.
Some
Is
people,
it
I mean, I was like that. I was,
a quitter?
Yeah, quit. Like they're not easy to say goodbye. Like you say it's easy for you to.
Oh no, only through practice. I was not only through practice, because like I said, as you get older, I think I'm 43 years old, and trial and error, and you're like, I'm not going through this anymore. I'm tired. I'm tired, you know? And so one thing we don't, and Jay has said it before, you know, there are all kinds of resources out here. Time is a resource you cannot get back. That is my main takeaway. I'm not getting any younger. I do know what I want. I do know what God promised me. And so the longer I stay in this mess, the further away I get from where I'm trying to be. Okay. And of course, you have to temper that message depending on who you're talking to, but it's the same message, you know. We are in from relationship standpoint, by the word of God, we can be like Paul, or we can be like other people. Okay, Paul was single. Okay, and either you're called to be single and you can walk in that thing, or you called to be married. You're not really called to have a boyfriend for 10 years. Okay, none of us are.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Amen. Can I get an amen? So I know for me, I know for me, the desires in my heart, I have been single. I have 2 children, which means I haven't been celibate, but I have been single. But I know I don't want to be single. I want to be in a loving relationship leading to marriage. So everything that I do, every choice that I make is based off of that big choice.
Right.
You know, and it doesn't, and I know for a fact, it does not take a man 5 years to make a decision on the woman. It doesn't take him that long. And again, I know this from trial and error. So I my own personal scientific experiment. So, you know, if you know that you and that person are not really, you know, you keep asking a certain thing because it is our duty to communicate it. It's our duty, but it's their responsibility to fulfill it. And if they're not fulfilling it, perhaps they don't have the capacity to fulfill it. In the meantime, God is going to fulfill that need, and you stay single and you make room for the next person that God brings your way.
I agree with you, Davida. I'm glad you made the distinction between like a marital relationship versus a non-marital relationship, because I was thinking the same thing. And I would just add, you know, I think, you know, well, we all know that God gave his life for us. So God is a giver by nature. This is what my pastor always, you know, he preaches that God is a giver. So his people, the people of God, are also givers because we're his people. And then, of course, the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy. So he's a taker. So when you look at, you keep pouring in and you pouring into this relationship that's going nowhere, and that person may not be making those changes, we do have to ask ourselves as Christians, if, like you said, is this person really the person that I'm supposed to be with? Is this the person that God sent for me? Because at that point, you know, you might be actually lingering in something that God is trying to remove you from. Sometimes, and I'm not even gonna say sometimes, his protections over us would be to make that person so, I mean, you could try your hardest, but it's just not working because God doesn't want you in that thing. So he will cause that person to actually turn away from you, to be mean spirited, or to be whatever it is that you really know you can't deal with, because God knows that he doesn't want you in that relationship. So God will turn, like he said, he turns the king's heart.
Yeah.
He can turn it either way, either which way, so that at that point it kind of forces us to get out of relationships that are unhealthy. So that could actually be God's blessing and really removing you out of that relationship and forcing you to make a decision to leave it. So I just wanted to add that.
That's good. Thanks.
Yeah.
I want to add to the question as well. Just simply to say that be mindful of the timing when you're trying to have conversations. Mindful of the timing in the sense of how agitated you are in the moment. Mindful in the timing of, is the other individual, is their mind fully engaged in something else that they're not going to pull out of to be able to have a sensible conversation. And if you can't find anything, any timing that works, then that's something to consider of whether or not they're worth your time.
That's good. Yep, that's a biggie.
Yeah.
I know that's a biggie for men too, because sometimes we talk and it's the right thing to say, but it's just not right now when he got home from work.
Because when you think about the scripture, that's what happened with David and Solomon. David said, I want to build you a temple. And God said, no, it's not the right time. You're not the right person for it. But his seed was able to do it in a different generation.
Yeah.
You know, but doesn't relationships in the beginning is supposed to be like all roses? You know what I mean? Like if in the beginning, if we're dating and we are having all these problems, I have no reason to go further.
Yeah.
Because
off the break.
I think that's Davida's point, but I was actually talking about marriage. And I think that what I see often is women moving past the issues they see and dismiss in the beginning because they think, oh, I can change, I can change him. And men thinking, I just have to make her happy and it'll work out. And they move forward and get married, and then they realize that that is not going to work. But yes, if you see it in the relationship beforehand, you definitely should. I think we probably all know somebody, maybe even ourselves, that went ahead and got married knowing that things were not necessarily the way that they should be and hoping that they would get better. And those issues probably magnified into it ending the relationship.
Yeah.
I think there is like a thin line between accepting someone's like flaws that aren't like the best and kind of thinking, okay, you know, it's not that big of a deal. Let me just get over it because I have things that, you know, that person may not like, you know, as well. So I think that's where what you were just talking about, where the confusion lies. Because if I know, like the whole shoe conversation that y'all guys were talking about, if I'm like an OCD person and I'm just like speaking to my partner and I'm saying, hey, stop leaving your shoes just randomly, you know, in random places and use the shoe rack, you know, I could be like, you know, just okay, let me put it this way. I would be okay to move forward with a marriage, at least I think, because I'm like, that's a petty thing to not be, you know, married to someone. I hope that makes sense. Like, you know,
It
I
does.
guess it is hard to distinguish what you can get over and what is not a big deal. And then sometimes those things that you think is not a big deal does manifest into like larger arguments about other stuff. So because I have OCD and he's not listening to the whole shoe thing, now he's like putting clothes all over the place. And now that causes a bigger issue. So I think that's where, you know, we hope when we marry someone that, yeah, this little thing bothers us, but in marriage, you know, I'll learn to get over it kind of thing.
See, but then that's where you have to keep in mind, as we said earlier, what is a little thing to one individual is larger to someone else. And if you're an individual with OCD, then that shoe thing could be something that is more problematic.
Right.
And it is just one other piece of information to consider out of everything else that you're already considering in to go further or not to go further with the individual.
I think probably what would maybe help to frame it better is to understand that it's actually your issue. Them, whatever it is that they're doing is not their issue, it's your issue. Because you're the one that has a problem with it. They're fine with it.
Right.
Apparently.
You have a problem with it. So it's actually your issue. And I think that when we don't see it that way, we feel like they're doing something wrong when they're just being who they are, versus us saying, you know what, this bothers me. I'm the one with the problem. Whether you feel like you're right, like this is just the wrong way to do it. Whether you feel like that or not, it's still you. They're fine with where they're at, unless, you know, as we were talking about earlier, unless they want to change and they're asking you like, hey, I'm working on this with myself, and as my partner, I want you to help me to, you know, fix this or change this or whatever, you know. But if it's really just, these are my preferences, these are my likes and dislikes, if they're not aligning with that, that's not their fault. That's not their issue. That's on you.
I would say it's on the other person. I mean, well, on the other person, and it's not your issue. But when you are in a relationship with someone, whether married or dating, if you love that person, and if, like I mentioned in the slide earlier, it's not about you, it's about the other person. If they're willing to, because you definitely have to have two willing people, and if that person isn't, you know, like was mentioned earlier, is not reciprocating those things, then it's some questions that I guess that need to be answered when it comes to that. Like, do I, you know, continue on, or do I stay? You know, it's, you know, I think it's just personal for everybody what they're willing to put up with and whatnot, you know. If in it could be something that is small to me, but not to the other person. But if that person is important to me, then I'm gonna, you know, do all I can to say, hey, well, how, you know, can we, you know, do differently, you know, in order to have it to where we can, you know, move forward with this, you know. I think that's the best.
I just thought of the craziest thing, y'all. Y'all know I'm crazy, right? So we're gonna use Tajon's example about these shoes at the door. You know, I was just thinking something crazy, like those shoes, somebody, that ex-girlfriend could have gave him those shoes. That's a big problem. Like every day. But no, you know, that's what I'm just saying. It's so many little things that could be in that to make that a situation or not. It's just, it came to my mind. I said, yeah, she's tired of seeing them Them little broke ass boots at the door every day. You should have trashed those when we.
It was all the shoes. It was all the shoes. But
Right. Is it all the shoes or just are you trying to stick it to me putting just that one pair right there? But you know,
this is why I'm making the distinction of it being your issue, because sometimes
right.
we feel like somebody's doing something to us.
To what? That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, they're like there's intent behind it, and it's really just thoughtlessness. It's not intentional, because people do things to each other all the time, and they had meant no harm whatsoever, and you are just all broken up. I mean, you may have had the experience of coming across somebody that you still 10 years later, you like, they did me so wrong, and they don't remember it at all because they were not, there was no malicious intent. They weren't coming after you or anything. And so when things happen in a relationship, you have to be honest about, okay, are they trying to upset or hurt me? Or is it just that they're not seeing what they're doing? They're not realizing. And like Sean shared about his preferences, he communicates them. Sometimes we don't even say, and the person's doing something and you're like, that irritates me so bad, but we've never even said that it's a problem. But even when you do, you know, that's how they are. That's what they do. And it's not about you. They was like that before they met you. So they're not doing it because of you. But yes, I think that you do want to accommodate people, but at the same time, you do, I think it was Natalie said, the fine line, you have to draw that line of knowing what is something that's a habit versus what is actually a part of who they are. Mm-hmm. My husband used to get so upset because I'm a super analytical person. And he was just like, why can't you just do what I say? You always got to talk, understand. This is how I function. It's not even like a conscious effort type thing. It's just the way my mind works. And to me, I felt like this is how I'm a good partner, is because I think things through. So that's a part of who I am. But me not cooking, that was a habit. And so I learned how to cook to make him happy. Mm-hmm. So, you have to differentiate those things and know, okay, if I really love this person, I got to take the good with the bad, because this is what makes them who they are, versus they just got this bad habit that I don't care for, and they're working on it, or they like it anyway, and they're not going to change it. And can I live with that?
Well, here's an example of something that men do that we don't mean any harm. It's just ingrained in us. We've been doing it all our lives. And yet I know a lot of couples that fight about it. We leave the toilet seat up. I mean, I've known couples that argue forever because he keeps leaving the toilet seat up.
We just put it down.
His wife went and got like a little spring to put on the toilet seat, so he would have to hold it and it automatically closed down, because that's how angry she used to get, because he used to leave the toilet seat up. Now, he's not doing it on purpose. That's just what we do. It is easier for me to quit smoking than it is for me to keep putting the toilet seat down every time I go to the bathroom. I'm being serious.
The woman for you is not going to have a problem. She's going to go in there and just put it down. It's no biggie,
I hope so. I'm serious. That's a hard thing.
Hold on. I want to say something about the toilet seat.
What's up, Jen?
No, I was about to say that I'd rather you leave the toilet seat up than get sprinkles on it when I'm trying to go and use the bathroom.
Look, I'm gonna give y'all easy fix. It did not work for me in my marriage, but I'll give y'all easy fix. And that's why it's so funny, because it did not work. Me and my ex, we agreed to keep both things down. When you leave, put both down. And don't you know, it never happened. But if you do that, it's fair to both people.
That's awesome.
The situation is, when you come in, you will always have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
You just put things in perspective, because
you just need your own bathroom.
Yeah, because me as a woman, look, my initial reaction is, oh, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, but see, that's the whole thing. See, that shows you right there. It's like how how our brains work, because we work in a way that's almost so selfish. Because if you put both of them down, when women come in, they have to lift up the top. When men come in, they have to lift up both. But no matter what it is, both people have to do something.
Do work, yeah.
But it's
Sharon
funny how, like I said, just that little thing, it starts to be, well, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know, you know, because that's that one little thing. It just shows
That's good.
we are
It
really
is.
on the inside.
Make them, both people got to do some work.
There you go.
Both got to do the work.
Oh,
So-
it keeps stuff from falling in the toilet.
Yeah, that's what we always get. Y'all fall into.
Yeah, I even
So-
know,
We did.
I've got a friend that affected their workplace, even with that whole toilet seat thing. It's a company where everyone was female, and now all of a sudden they hired this male. They putting sticky notes on top of the toilet to put the toilet seat down and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, I said the same thing that Jay said. Well, just put both of them down. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Blah blah blah. You just need to put the toilet seat down because I'm tired of falling in the toilet. I'm like, well, who doesn't look before they sit on something?
Right. There you go. Free.
I agree with that. I agree.
In my own house that I had to clean that toilet, I don't look. Shoot. It's my toilet. I'm not at the racetrack.
Hey, so how do we stay together? Do y'all think, which I think is a great idea, having scheduled times to be together? Because it's something that I experienced in the past where the gentleman and I, our work schedules were totally off. When I'm working, he's sleeping. And when he's sleeping, I'm working. And so it didn't work because I was trying to schedule date time and he said, you need to chill out and let things happen organically, which meant sex when he wanted it. But the relationship itself needs to be like in the beginning, I say, in the beginning when you try to get to know a person. Because you know how we talk about a certain amount of time should pass. Like Jay, I'm gonna pick on Jay because Jay said, shoot, you want to find out if this is your person or not and get rid of that joker if he's not, right? So I have a specific time where I'm trying to work things out. So what do you think about that? Like where you actually schedule a week, like a date or something like that? Or you should just let things just happen and you don't see that person for 2 weeks, but you're talking on the phone or something.
It is very important to do that.
Huh?
I say that is very important to do. And I can say that because I'm in leadership in my church. I'm a licensed minister. And so when I was dating, I had to be able to divide my time from what I was doing at church and devoting my attention to this whole other human being. And at the time, I even had 4 jobs. So scheduling things out became very important for us because of her being in school and things and the way I was working, it did not mesh to just say organic. And then there are some moments when, okay, cool, now we finally have had time to get together, but I'm dog dead tired. I'm sleeping 2 seconds if you don't keep me talking.
Right.
So it is very important to schedule it out because in that time period, that is a time that you can devote just to learning who that other individual is. The organic portions of the relationship, I believe, happen only after you're able to understand what is organic about that individual, understanding what makes them tick. And by doing that, then you're able to do those little small things that you know they enjoy. But if you're just meeting, you don't know what those little small things are. You don't know what their schedule is like to be able to be organic. If you're trying to do a surprise dinner, you cook everything like, hey, come over. Like, well, I'm actually about to head into work. The only way to understand and know that that person is going to work is to know some form of a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I heard a motivational speaker said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And, you know, for me, I think a relationship, I need to plan on having a successful relationship.
There you go.
And I know that the only way a relationship is going to work is if the couple spend time getting to know each other. In order to get to know each other, you got to spend time with each other. That's where you develop the intimacy. So if my priority is the relationship and taking it further or succeeding in it, then I have to schedule out time. I mean, I'm busy too. You know, I work a full-time job, and then I have a business on the side. Actually, the business on the side got me a contract that has me working 50 hours a week for someone else, and then I still have to do the other stuff that I have to do on the side. So I can spend every day working 7 days a week, every waking moment. But if I plan on getting with somebody, I have to schedule out time to get with somebody. It's hard for me to schedule out time to get with myself right now.
Right.
That's why I like this group. We plan on being here at 11 o'clock on Saturday. And, you know, we plan on it. We schedule it out. We make sure we hear whatever we have to do, shift around things, but we plan on being here because we're getting something out of it. We enjoy it. It's the same thing in relationships. I mean, we're building a relationship with each other in this group, but we plan on being here.
What I told that individual, because I agree with that. I think that, I mean, like I said, our topic today, Sheila's topic, is how do we stay together? Everybody's got their own life before they meet somebody. You see somebody you might be initially attracted to, you decide you want to talk to that person or whatever. And so my thing is, because I'm a planner and an organizer, I will put in the work. I'm like, okay, well, I work this job and I have a second job. These are my hours. Like, I already know my availability, but I can maneuver it a little bit based off of what you do too. And so when you try to do that with someone and they don't want to, when they don't want to maneuver their schedule, like maybe you have a 9 to 5 where you have to clock in. I understand that. And then the thing was, well, I'm sleeping after that. But then you like wake up 2 hours after that and you want to, you know, be physical or whatever. That's not dating. That was years ago, but that's not dating. And so that person may not be ready. That's what I said. You're not ready to welcome a woman into your life, because women take time and money. I think, you know, I mean, I don't know if that goes for men, but I always say women take time and money. And if you're not willing to invest the time, then maybe right now is not a time for you to be with a woman, or at least not with me, you know? So.
Well,
I'm gonna definitely
Davina,
take
I'm gonna say something,
another.
but go ahead, Natalie.
Oh, I was gonna say that I'm gonna take the toilet seat example with the, you know, agreeing to do both at the same time with this question, because I feel like a relationship needs both. It definitely needs time, at least, you know, especially if you guys are on opposite schedules, to, you know, plan a day, a solid day every week to do whatever you guys want. But if you're like me, I need spontaneity in my relationship. So I'm gonna need a random day. I don't know what you guys consider schedule, but say it's Monday and we're talking and we're like, oh, there's this art thing that's happening, you know, on Wednesday. Do you want to go? Then I feel like, you know, that's not something that was really scheduled, you know, for that week, but it's something that's, you know, that's something that's unexpected. So it keeps the relationship going, because I feel like when you get in a routine where everything is scheduled and everything is this, it becomes so mundane and very, Hello? Oh, I'm sorry. My thing is dying. It becomes mundane and very routine in the relationship. And I think that depending on who you're dealing with, that can get boring and stale. So, and we were talking about, organic, right? What happens with organic plants? They're like left in the wild or left in the field, and nature takes care of them, right? It's not something that's grown in a laboratory. So I feel like, with the elements and having it grow, it's the same thing in a relationship. If you're wanting a relationship to be organic, you have to let random things happen to it to see how it grows, to see how you guys deal with certain situations.
Mm-hmm. So you
Yeah,
need both.
I love a lot of that, Natalie. I forgot all your numbers because y'all know once I get on here, I'm gonna start talking Enneagram.
I'm a two.
Okay, but what are your other two numbers?
I think it was a 3, and I think the 3 was the last one, and I think it might have been a 6 for the middle one.
Okay, well, the quick thing, because Davida and I'm gonna joke on her, and I'm gonna joke on you too a little bit too, Natalie. 2 energy goes into the 4. Okay, when you're happy, you go into the 4. 4 is romantic energy.
Okay.
Sheila also has 4. I know Davida goes from 2 to 4. I forgot who else on here has 4 energy. 4 energy is the energy of romance. That is what you're talking about, Natalie.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the spontaneity. So if somebody is in a relationship with you and Davida and Sheila, they will probably need to be spontaneous.
Yep.
Okay, because those things will matter. But the men that are on the call that have no energy in that, or the ones that might watch this later on YouTube, how do you get around it? Well, you basically at the beginning of the year, you take out your thing, this gadget here, and it's called a phone, and it has a calendar on it. And what you do is you go to the calendar and you actually pre-make your days throughout the whole year that you're going to do something. You put a little label on it, and you usually do something like late night business meeting or something like that your woman won't know, or that your 2 or your 4 won't know what that means. And then basically what happens is once you get to that date, you make a promise to yourself that you're going to do something special on that date. No matter what the situation is, you're going to do something special on that day. Now the woman thinks, oh my gosh, he's thinking about me. Oh wow, I feel so special. Okay, when really it was planned.
Jay is ooh. Jay is
Telling all
smooth
our
with it.
secrets. Stop it.
Okay, so that's just an easy trick for the guys. But for the ladies, remember, and like I said, that's why I'm gonna pick on Davida a little bit. That 2-4 energy is what you guys keep talking about, but men have 2-4 energy as well. So if a guy has 2 energy, he is going to be a giver. He is going to naturally give. He's going to naturally bend over backwards. See, we associate the 2 energy with women, but it's not true. A lot of times it ends up with in men as well. And those men go through the exact same thing that women do when it comes to giving, caring, doing too much, but then it's not always reciprocated. And it's the same thing with guys when it comes to 4 energy. Guys that have a lot of 4 energy, they're the same way because, and I've never talked about this, but I actually believe, because me and Tashawn have talked about it, and I don't see Seconda on here. There she is, Seconda's on there. A lot of times I actually believe that for a lot of 4 people, they become 8s. I actually do believe that. I believe a lot of 4s become 8s. And I think what happens is we're 4s as children, and then our parents kind of mess with us a little bit. And that's what's actually in our treasure chest or our safe or whatever that we talk about sometimes, that we only let very close people to us see. And that's why you can find a lot of 8s that happen to be very creative and or very romantic. But the problem is we only show it to one person, maybe to 2 people. And you have to get really close to us in order to see it. And like with me, I was very romantic in my relationship. But even though I don't have that energy. So that's just something else that's nice and fun to say, today, as I heard Davida and Natalie talk, I just couldn't help.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's true. Like I like what Natalie said too. It takes both. It takes the planned stuff, and then it also takes the spontaneous things. But I think my takeaway is, because again, I'm not with that individual anymore. if you feel like it's like too much effort, like they don't want to do the things that you want, they can't move and flow like that, it's probably not your person. You know, because maybe it's not either not your person or it's just not the timing. The timing is wrong. You know?
I
know
have a
Sean-
question for those who have to plan to be, I don't know, spontaneous or whatever that thing that Jay was just describing is called. Because I mean, as an 8, as is being said before, you know, I'm not the most emotional person, but I am a very thoughtful person. Now, I'm not going to say that I like will just automatically do all of these different things, but the way that I kind of function is I think about people. And so when I'm out somewhere, I'll see something and I'll be like, that look just like Davita. She would love that. Or, you know, Sean, he likes this. I mean, it just, it's not even like I'm intentionally like, oh, I need to go buy something for somebody or I need to go do. It just reminds me of that person. And so it doesn't have to be an occasion. I'll just buy it or do it. You know, if it's tickets, if it's a gift or whatever, I'll just do it because that thing, I always say to people, it spoke to me. And said, you know, it reminded me of this person. And so I'll do that. Now, when I was married, I was always mindful of, you know, whether my husband needed new underwear, whatever, all of these different things that I knew, my kids or my husband, whatever. But if I saw something that reminded me of a person, I might not even have thought about them all week. But, you know, and so that's how I function. And it's not a big thing. It's not no like, oh, a limo came and champagne. It's just a thing that says, hey, I was thinking about you.
But that is a big thing though. I think, you know, because it doesn't necessarily have to be an occasion, but it's just the fact that, you know, you thought about it or whatever, because, you know, just me as having some of those energies, like the 2 and 4 energy, you know, I would like, you know, somebody to get me something or you know that they were thinking about me out on their day or whatever. And then that they paid attention to something that it is that I like or whatever. And they're like, you know what, that would be great for Sheila, you know? So I wouldn't downplay that, you know, either. You know, I think both are great, whether it's occasion or gift giving.
That's true. Tijan, 2 things I'm hearing. I don't know. Okay, I know you're an 8. I am the same way, although my numbers are 1, 2, 9. But I am a practical person. In my mind, I'm always thinking about everybody's needs. That's the first thing. It's always there. So if I am at the store, and I always, just from gathering information, from talking to people, I know what they need. You know, it's like, I'm gonna just go get it because we talked about it or whatever. It's always in the back of my mind. What I will say though, because so that's my first thing, is that I don't know if it's an 8 thing or not, but I don't know, Jay, you have to say, because I'm not an 8, but it's always there. I'm always thinking about that. Maybe that's the giver. I'm always thinking about that. The second thing I want to say is what I'm hearing is now going into love languages. Has anybody ever read Gary Chapman's The 5 Languages of Love? And so if not, I think that would be an excellent, if we ever want to do a book study and maybe do 2 sessions on that, we should do it.
You know, I got a question. If
there you go. Go ahead, Secunda. Yeah. I got mine right here too.
If I have to work so hard to schedule out, if it's so difficult for me to get this to want to spend time with you, my question to myself is, do I really want to spend time with that person? If it's like so hard.
People do what they want to do.
Right. Wait a minute, repeat that.
They want to do. And if they want to spend time with a person because they enjoy their company, they're gonna make the time.
That's right.
I
agree.
But I feel like in certain situations, like what Davita was saying about like having totally different opposite schedules, like when one is working, the other one is not, and vice versa, I think it becomes difficult with that. And you
Correct.
can take it how you can take this or leave it. But it kind of brings me back to the whole equally yoked thing. Like, I don't think if this person was for me, God would make me have, meet him and have totally different schedules so we can't even, get to know each other. That's personally how I take that. There are certain things that I feel like we shouldn't have to fight just with us being natural and having our natural beings. If we're meant to like a penguin is not gonna mate with a sea lion. So it's just like, equally yoked. That's what I think about when it comes to that situation.
Now,
Right.
when it comes to the scheduling thing, um, that's not to necessarily say it's like you trying to schedule out a court date, but it is having the willingness to be able to figure out this is what my schedule was before you. This is your schedule before me. So how can we rearrange together so that we're able to have time to get to know each other? It's not saying that you're trying to force a square peg in a round square in a round hole, but that willingness to be able to figure that out is even a part of having having communication with one another. Can you figure out how to make this work? Can you figure out what days are the best? And then when it comes to spontaneity, it's I I see spontaneity to be something that has many different ways that it can look like. For you, you mentioned, oh, cool, let's go do this event at the museum or whatever. But there are other ways to also be spontaneous. And even in, for example, I would say for me, Valentine's, when I was in a relationship, I'm like, cool, we're going to go do this thing. I'm not telling you what we're doing. Just be ready at this time, and you might want to wear these type of shoes. um, there's still ability to be spontaneous in the time that you scheduled out. And then, as I said, as you begin to learn each other's schedule, you're able to say, "Hey, what are you doing right now? Put on some shoes, put on the coat, come to pick you up." But it takes time to understand where you're able to make those things work. I remember I was in a relationship once. I was forever good. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be at your front door in 1 hour." So, granted, now I do understand. Took her a little bit longer to get ready because y'all women want to make sure y'all have every curl curled the right way at the right angle. I get that, but in order to get to that point where you can do that, you first have to have that allotted time to know what that person's schedule is like. And then also to learn that you're dealing with an individual that wants that spontaneity, that wants you to just catch me off guard. Hey, pick me up well, I'm coming to pick you up in 20 minutes. Be ready. That wants that person to say, hey, I happen to win these tickets on the radio. Do you want to go to a concert? But in order to get to that point where you can do that, you first have to have an allotted time to learn that about the individual.
When I was speaking about spontaneity, yeah, definitely. I know that there are different facets and routes on how to be spontaneous, but I don't even think that being spontaneous even takes all that energy. I feel like we were talking a little bit about, doing the small things like, like going to the store and then looking at something and thinking about somebody and then picking it up and giving it to them. I think like being spontaneous could easily be like, okay, I know he works from home and he's probably going to have lunch in 30 minutes. I'm not going to stay, but I'm going to pick up something real quick, pop up at his house, give it to him. Here, babe, here, have lunch on me, and then walk away. That's being spontaneous and doing something small, and real quick at the same time. So it's not always just about, oh, let me pop up, let's go out and do stuff. It's just like showing someone you care and taking even just 5 minutes to have them recognize that.
Yeah, I think Sean
No,
said it best. If there's somebody you're really interested in, you're going to make concessions in order to see about that person.
I'm a 1, right? Everybody knows that my first number is a 1. So I can get into the zone where I'm working, and that's it. That's where my brain is. Until something stops me, like my own family will call me, and that will stop me, and then I'll realize, man, I haven't spoke to my sister in like 2 weeks. And I will stop working and, talk to my sister, my brother, or whatever. But I can lose myself from working because I do enjoy what I do. I've been blessed in that fashion to where I won't think about nothing and nobody else. Even though when I'm working, I'm meeting the needs of other people. I mean, if I'm in a relationship, like it's out of sight, out of mind. I'll be honest. So what Jay said about the calendar, that is my biggest productivity tool when it comes to dating. Because from the first date, the questions that I ask and the conversation we have, she doesn't realize that I'm making mental notes to add to my Outlook calendar. So what Natalie talked about are popping up and what they think is spontaneous, they don't know that 2 months ago it was on my calendar. And in the week of, I am feeling out if it's good and what do I need to bring in the exact meal I need to have and what picnic basket I need to put it in, all of that stuff. But I have to plan it out because if I don't, it will go neglected. If it's not on my calendar, it's difficult for me. For some time, my mother used to say, like, when she wanted me, she had to make an appointment. And I'm not proud of that. I'm not proud of that. But yeah, unless somebody just snaps me out of that zone when I'm working, it's hard for me to be spontaneous in the way y'all call spontaneous. Because that's just not me. I plan out everything. Even if I'm going to the store, I had to go to FedEx to get some documents out. It was planned. I went online, see the closest one.
It was planned.
Map out how I'm going to get there. Map out, is there other things I need to get when I'm in the area? Like the whole 9. It's planned step by step before I even leave the house. Something that small. So.
And I'm a 1 too. I'm a 1 as well, Sean. So as a woman, I can relate, right? And that's me. That's my normal thing. I'm a worker and I will work until I think God saved me in a way because I have a child. My priority is to feed this child and to take care of him. So I know, okay, at a certain point, I have to stop and I have to attend to this. But a lot of things in my life are compartmentalized.
Right.
I can be spontaneous, but that even the spontaneity, I have set aside time for it.
Right.
Okay, I have set aside time for it.
Isn't it fair to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, well, I'm gonna just finish up, Natalie, but not everyone can flow like that. They think it's too stringent, but so that's probably not gonna work because I don't see anything wrong with my system.
Nothing wrong with it.
I was just gonna say that spontaneity is more than likely for the person that you're doing it for. You know what I'm saying? Because in you guys' case, you're gonna have to plan it. You telling me, you not telling me and just telling me, well, you're not telling me at the time you planned it, but telling me at the time you're gonna do it is still spontaneous to me, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like,
I get you. I get what you're saying.